Hello and welcome to this edition of Our Schools. My name is Jeff Pacer. This is the public service program offered to you through Time Warner Cable, and it features the events, activities, and people of the West Seneca Central School District. We are pleased today to introduce you to our new Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mark Crawford. Thank you, sir, for being with us this morning. Some of our viewers might not know this, but you were here in West Seneca previously. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing and how long ago that's been.
Well, that was from 1991 until 2000, and had a marvelous time working in Northwood Elementary with a great staff and a wonderful community of parents and students, and we did all kinds of things there. I think student achievement during those years improved. We built a playground, a nature trail. Staff and I and many volunteers cooked breakfast every day for kids, and I played a fair amount of football at lunchtime with everybody. But it was a wonderful time in my life, and just a wonderful experience all around. The young people were terrific, and I never had any student management issues with them because we all knew them by name, and I think the young people appreciated the number of things outside of the classroom as well as inside that staff members had provided for the kids. But I must say that it was, what was really noteworthy about the whole experience was the integration of parents and staff and grandparents and retired people to make all kinds of programs and activities, including the breakfast program, work to serve the needs of children. And I might add the comprehensive needs of children.
Now that you're superintendent of schools, do you have any short-term, long-term goals that you have for the district that you'd like to implement?
Well, there are two overarching goals that we think about, and the first has to do with continuous improvement in the area of student achievement. And you know, watching over the last several years the growth in this area for the West Seneca schools, it's been very impressive. We have a tremendous cadre of principals who are the instructional leaders in our district. We have curriculum specialists who we call directors, and they're very special, very focused, and tremendously informed about all of the changes in curriculum in New York State. They're on top of the standards. And they do terrific work in servicing our staff members, the teachers. The second goal, which I think is just as important, it has to do with character formation and service to others. I see service to others and character formation kind of running together. We want to work hand in hand with our parents. Parents are the first educators of children, and good manners start in the home, and we want to continue to reinforce the importance of good manners here in school. There's an awful lot that's been written about civility, all the good things that come through civility, and the lack of it as a problem in our society. You see it with road rage. You see people being cantankerous in lines at the food store. So good manners, civility are things that we value, and we want to pay attention to that. And the other idea is serving others. We have all kinds of opportunities in the school system. The middle schools right now are involved with 10 days of service to the community, which I think is just tremendous. And in our high schools, we have any number of clubs and programs going on where teachers and students are focused on helping those less fortunate have a better life. I know Thanksgiving time and Christmas time, lots of efforts are made to help families in need enjoy the holidays. The same can be said about our elementary programs. Well, I think, you know, my whole career I've held the position that we're here to be of service. Doesn't matter who you are, what level administrator, where you are in teaching, whether you're brand new or you're somebody that's been teaching for 30 years. The idea is that we are all here to serve children. Everyone has a position in the school system because of children. And so as social life has changed and modern life has moved forward, what we find is that many children need schools more than ever to help meet their comprehensive needs. Now, there are many parents and families that are still quite capable of providing all of the things, the material well-being and the love and support that you would hope to find in any home. However, there are children who come to our school who sometimes our experience has shown are not as fortunate. And so they need school staff members and community members willing to step in to help meet those needs so that they have an equal chance of being successful and leading a happy life in this world. And so we're committed to that as a district.
So after Northwood Elementary, where did you wind up going?
Well, I went to Casey Middle School in Williamsville, where I was the principal for 4 years, which was a nice experience. There were wonderful young people there and their families and staff. And I worked on the Curriculum Council in Williamsville, where professionally I think I learned an awful lot. And it was a great experience administering a middle school program. We had almost 900 students. So it was a significant change from what I had been used to at the elementary level. So as I think about my career, having had that wonderful experience at Northwood and then at Casey Middle as a school principal, I think did an awful lot to help prepare me for the superintendency. So after I left Casey, I went to Dryden, New York as superintendent, where I was there for almost 3.25 years, 3.5 years. And Dryden is a community that lies equidistant between Ithaca and Cortland, to give it a little geographical perspective. A district of about 2,000 students, and there I had the opportunity to serve in a number of capacities as superintendent, and I was responsible for personnel and had a lot to do with buildings and grounds and transportation, those kinds of things. So I also conducted several superintendent hearings and got to work with some fine staff members there, setting up some volunteer programs for young people in the community. Was a founding member of a Rotary Club, which ended up providing a bookmobile for children during the summer. In Dryden we had 13 trailer parks, and just about 40% of the kids there were living in or near poverty. Part of our district at that time was involved Tompkins and Cortland County, so we had some Appalachian kind of poverty, which was pretty extreme. And so with Rotary's help and a local car dealership, we put this beautiful large food truck together. It had been retired, and we brought it back, revitalized it, and it was a bookmobile, and we had incredible support from the community. And many of the kids accessed that bookmobile as it arrived in the various trailer parks. And the nice thing was that they could get on the truck, and if they saw books they liked, they could take them and keep them. They didn't have to return them. And so it was a real nice program, I think, that everybody in the community shared in the support of young people. And then I worked with some teenagers in a hamlet within the district. Because of their social economic conditions, they didn't have a lot of opportunity to get back to campus for musicals and athletic programs and so forth. And because they were outside the township of Dryden, they didn't have the opportunity to participate in town activities, soccer clubs and the like. So this little primary school was right across from a trailer park, which we opened up on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and would bring pizza and pop, and they could have time for recreation. I had folks come in, volunteer time for homework, and to teach the kids some crafts and those kinds of things, and cut down on vandalism back behind the school and so forth, and gave this group of young people a sense of identity. So it was a great experience, not unlike the kinds of things that happened as a result of the breakfast program at Northwood.
Right. So
having spent some 3+ years there, the opportunity to go to Hamburg opened up, and Hamburg's where I grew up. So I was delighted to have an opportunity to go there, and was fortunate enough to be selected. And so I had some tremendous experiences there, great people, a lot of people I had known all my life as well. And it was a great location to come back to Western New York. As many know, there were some incredible financial challenges there with a large deficit that we discovered shortly after I had arrived, and we worked through all of those things. So, but it was all for the good, and so in a way, in terms of my own preparation for superintendency, it was one more set of experiences that I think have helped prepare me well for this current situation here in West Seneca. And I must say I'm thrilled to be back in West Seneca, and I have said this to many people, that Hamburg was a location, it's a place I grew up. But in terms of my career and relationships with people, this is home to me.
Great.
And it's nice seeing you again, as it has been a number of people since I've returned.
I'm sure you've probably bumped into a lot of friendly, familiar faces that
That's right.
you remember from back in Northwood days.
Yeah, it's been great.
So I've had the privilege this past week of meeting with you and our leadership team, which consists of building administrators, department coordinators, support personnel. And one of your opening comments that you made to us was the focus on service.
Right.
And service to the children.
Right.
Expand on that, if you would, a little bit for our public, because it really made me just stop and think.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I alluded to it a little bit earlier in my comments, but we are all here to be of service to children. In other words, the West Seneca school system, which is fairly large by comparable standards, one could say, well, it's a large bureaucratic operation. Well, this is not a bureaucracy that exists to perpetuate itself. We are here to serve the needs of children, and by extension, their families. And so everything we do has got to be focused on meeting the needs of children, student achievement, and then the other extraordinary comprehensive needs of children, to make sure that they're being fed, they're being well cared for, and that we also make connections as staff members with each child. To that degree, we reduce the anonymity so that every child is known by name. Now, typically, anonymity is not much of a problem in elementary schools, because every child has a homeroom teacher, and with a teacher many hours a day, and usually a principal will get to know, if not every child in the building, almost every child by name. Middle school, you begin departmentalization, and because of that, children are not held by the same teacher throughout the day. So the potential for not knowing a child very well, certainly by name, increases, and that's redoubled as you get into the secondary level. So it's a challenge for everybody. Research has shown that to the degree that young people are known, particularly in middle school and high school, known by name, that someone has a personal interest in their welfare. Even saying good morning and how are you doing, and being available for consultation, for a discussion or a chat with a young person, has been demonstrated to prove that those interactions among staff and students go a long way toward helping kids stay in school and increase student achievement, because they have a sense that not only people at home care about them, but the people in school. We all remember those teachers in our lives that had a huge impact on us. And while we may not really remember what it was they were teaching us, what we did know was we had a sense that they cared about us.
Right.
They knew us by name, they had some interest in what we were doing in and out of school, and it made a world of difference. And if we felt we needed some understanding, we didn't get homework done or something, you felt like you could talk to somebody and be treated fairly. And I think that's one of the things that all young people look for. Indeed, all people, whether you're young or old, look to be treated with kindness and respect by people. And so we continue to do those kinds of things for children, to really sincerely let them know that they're important to us and that they matter. It's a great corollary to our instructional program then in helping kids achieve at levels that we hope they'll achieve. The other thing that we talked about the other day that you mentioned is to infuse throughout our programming aspects of globalization. There are, in my mind, two strands that are noteworthy. One is obviously, to prepare our young people in the 21st century to be competitive in the marketplace, to be able to use all kinds of technology to be successful. But the idea here is that not only in Western New York or in North America, but throughout the world, young people are using cell phones, going to Wi-Fi cafes to access the internet. You see this all throughout China. And by the way, China is a country where there are more people in China speaking English than in the United States. So that tells you a little bit about how fast the world is changing. But there are young people in India hungry to be successful, hungry to enjoy some of the values and the fruits of labor that they see people in America enjoying. When I was in Rwanda, same thing. Young people there love America, but they're all using cell phones. They're accessing the internet. And the same is true of people I've spoken with who were down recently in Haiti, Guatemala, and all throughout Europe, of course, Poland, through France and Spain and England. So I think that for us to do our job well, not only is it the traditional kind of things, operations in math and so forth, and concepts in history that we need to think about, but it's the cultivation clearly of real proficiency in second languages, multiple languages, and an awareness of the expanding use of technology throughout the world. And actually, it's the interconnectedness of the world now in ways, more ways than ever before. The other side of globalization has to do with the notion of social justice. When I was in Rwanda, it was very clear. 80 to 90% of the people live in that country without running water or electricity. It's an expanding population. Many people are living just the bare essentials. You saw what happened in Haiti, one of the poorest countries, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. You know, to the degree that those populations are expanding, we have some responsibilities for that, and an awareness, to instill an awareness in our young people, because as that continues to grow, the poverty and so forth, that will threaten also the well-being of everybody else's security. So it's an idea that we need to think about as we move forward. And I'm not sure I have all the answers for it, but I do think that there are certain levels of awareness that we, coming from a country such as ours, in area in the country in Western New York, where we have so much, to be aware of all of the struggles of other people on the planet. If we really hope to understand the perspectives of others and where they're coming from.
I know oftentimes with change comes questions about whether leadership will make large adjustments right off the bat, kind of let things ride as it is. Do you have any big plans for major changes at all in the district?
You know what I found is just incredible. The way in which we have curriculum specialists, for example, who are so capable here, so well experienced, and up to date, in some ways exceeding expectations or standards set in Albany or by the federal government. I'm just amazed. And the readiness with which I see our teachers absorbing all of the newest ideas in curriculum and strategies for learning. You know, what has been, for me, always the hallmark of Seneca was the wonderful integration of parents and community members and staff. And as I look around now, I've been here 3 weeks, but was prepping to come through the summer and, of course, being in touch with many people. So really, it's been about almost 3 full months that I've been looking at Seneca again in a very direct way. It still continues. I mean, the things that I see the service clubs doing, the parent-teacher groups, parents themselves, and the boosters, and the staff members, and the giving ways of staff members, and the real sincere interest they have, and the pride they have in the school system to give young people every advantage, I think is just incredible. And so, you know, I want to make sure that that's facilitated, and we continue to do those kinds of things. But I think as the 21st century evolves, we have got to stay on the competitive edge of curriculum, instruction, and again, keeping an eye on the social economic needs of our young people as we move forward.
Speaking of curriculum and instruction in Albany in general, do you foresee state standards changing when it comes to regents, grades and graduation requirements, or is that pretty much set in stone? Is that really not going to change?
I think it's been a work in progress. I mean, first I became aware of Albany and in plans to improve, go way back to 1984 in the Regents Action Plan. Within the contents of that plan, there was a goal that by 1999, all children graduating from public high schools in New York State would be bilingual in a second language, able to read, write, and speak. And at the time, I thought, well, that's a nice goal, but practically speaking, you know, I don't know how doable it would be, because we still had young people in many of our schools, some urban areas that were struggling with reading, who were in high school at you know, elementary levels. To think that they would be proficient in a matter of 15 years or so was kind of an interesting prospect for me. That having been said, so I suppose a lot of us in the field have thought for some time that some of the changes coming out of Albany, while well-intentioned, maybe weren't always as well considered as they could have been. Certainly, I give credit to everyone looking to raise standards and to challenge everybody to make sure that our young people are as competitive as anybody in the world. After all, I just got done talking about globalization. We need to have our young people as prepared as they can be. But I do think that the policymakers there in the regions have the best intentions of helping all children throughout the state. And I think, as I have attended conferences and spoken with people around the country for the last several years, it's very clear that young people in New York are among the very best prepared for a future. So great kudos to policymakers and the commissioners and everybody else for those kinds of efforts.
Expand, if you will, Mark, on your ideas about staff and community and parents.
Well, as I indicated earlier, one of the hallmarks of West Seneca, the West Seneca Central School District, for me, has always been this marvelous integration of parents and staff members and the community at large, with all of the service clubs providing all kinds of support for our schools. And I must say that our school board is really remarkable for their contributions. This board has been very responsible financially to the community. I mean, they take their fiscal stewardship very seriously. But on the other side of that, they are very child-centered. Many of the board, a majority of the board, has been with West Seneca from the time when I was first hired as a principal back in '91. And other members of the board have been heavily involved with the parent-teacher group. And so they get it, and they're really wonderful advocates, strong advocates for meeting the comprehensive needs of children. And that's one of the things that's very compelling for me, and certainly one of the things that encouraged me to make a decision to want to come back to West Seneca. I just think it's great. You don't always hear that about a school board. In this case, it's very clear that we have strong advocates for children, and will do everything they can to make sure that we have the finest instructional program opportunities available for the children in the West Seneca community. So I'm proud to be affiliated, associated with them, and I know that they're very proud of the West Seneca school system as well. So I think the partnerships throughout the West Seneca community, starting with the board, our staff members, the parents, community at large, the service clubs, you take all of these things together, and it's awesome what we have here in the ability to support young people. And so I just, I can't say enough about it. I'm just delighted to be here for all of those connections with some very committed people.
You mentioned parent-teacher organizations. obviously being a former principal
Yes.
here in our district, you got to know the inner workings of that sort
Right.
of organization, that group. They seem to be, at least as a parent of a child here in the district, they're very active in trying to recruit new members.
Yep.
And how important is it for parents to get involved in that sort of organization?
Well, I think it's enormously important. One of the great benefits when parents get involved with school and all of the activities, you know, the Halloween celebrations, Christmas celebrations, anything along those lines, there's a shared experience between parents and the child. And the child intuits or knows in a straightforward way that mom and dad are interested in their education. And there's a comfort for a child knowing that his or her parents are getting along well with the principal and knows the principal by name and the teachers, and knows there's a warm relationship between the teachers and the parents. When that kind of thing occurs, it's good for everybody. It's a great comfort. Everybody knows they're being supported. I think it's good for parents to know that they're appreciated and welcomed in the buildings and also known by name. And it works the same way for the principal, I know, having been one, and also for the teachers to know that they've got committed parents who will do whatever they can to help supplement whatever is needed in the classroom, come in as guest readers, you know, all these kinds of things. But this is critical, the interconnectedness of all of this stuff, because it really, again, it's, I've not seen it always in lots of places. There's some social distancing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think we do make an effort, and I've talked to principals and some of the parents, and I've seen it with the board, to reduce the social distance so people get to know one another by name. The beneficiaries always are the kids. It really is a huge difference. And I'm convinced that wherever I have been, if I've been successful as a principal, it's been because of that relationship with the parent organization, and not just a formal organization, but any parent who wants to be involved to help in whatever capacity and to be welcome. And just like the kids, and just like other staff members, I remember Mike Langen, who I worked with at Narden years ago, said the sweetest syllables in a person's life are those of his own name. So if you get to know somebody by name, it means a lot. And I never forgot that advice. And it's true. So.
Do you make it a point of visiting each building as far as whether it be a staff meeting or maybe a PTO type organizational meeting? How often do you get a chance to get out into the buildings?
Well, in the last couple of weeks, I've been out to every building. I want to get out to buildings more frequently. I have an open door policy, and it seems every time I turn around, somebody is coming in to see me, even though they may or may not have had an appointment, which is fine. But it's holding me here and not allowing me to get out. That'll straighten out after a while. It's partly a function of being new.
Sure.
I'll be meeting with the district parent-teacher organization next week on the 28th, and I'm looking forward to that. But I want to certainly have an opportunity to speak with individual faculties and parent groups throughout the year, just to let them know how vital they are to the overall success of our mission here in West Seneca.
Great. Well, I certainly want to thank you for making the time to meet with me and be on the show, and certainly wish you
Thank you,
lots
Jeff.
of luck.
It's great to be back.
Good to
Thank
have
you for this time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.